Gentlemen, today we are going to be talking about one of the most brutal choices a game forces you to make. See, the choice mechanic in games is used as a way to give players a sense of agency in how the story unfolds. Usually it involves two separate choices at least that give you their own outcomes. But what happens when a game gives you two separate choices, but the outcomes don't change? What I'm talking about is an option that instead of giving you two separate tangible outcomes, gives you two separate emotional outcomes. This choice is one that forces you to pick between a more fantasy genre, like where, you know, once upon a time in Wonderland, everything goes right all the time kind of vibe is going down, or the other option in a more grounded, realistic way where life sucks, your dreams are always going to be a dream, they're never going to come true, and you know, that's the option, that's the second option, that's what they're asking you to pick between. I wonder what you're going to pick. But from the thumbnail, I'm sure you can tell which option I'm talking about. But before I explicitly say it, I'm gonna give you a spoiler warning, alright? This is where I'm gonna start talking about some shit that you probably don't want to hear if you haven't played Ghost of Tsushima. And the option I'm talking about, the option to pick between killing Uncle or letting him live. You see, in Ghost of Tsushima, they don't have many moments where you can pick how the story unfolds. It's because the writers have a pretty clear story they want to tell. I'm sure that scared away a lot of Kingdom Hearts fans, but the story in question here is Jin's internal conflict between his samurai codes and the survival of the people of Tsushima. After Jin loses his father, his uncle, Lord Shimura, takes him in as his own, instilling in him the codes of being a samurai, of which there are 7 virtues, but the one that concerns us the most with this story is honor and what it means to be an honorable warrior. But what happens when an honorable warrior, unwilling to do whatever it takes to beat his enemies, meets an opponent that is willing to do whatever it takes? Well, this shit. Fuck honor. And that's the thing, when Khotun Khan shows up to the island of Tsushima, it shakes up the samurai there. Because he is an opponent like none before. Unless his codes was to kill at all costs, this motherfucker does not have any codes. Alright? And because of that, the samurai of Tsushima can't beat him. It's like the samurai are fighting with one arm tied behind their back and half a sword. When this guy is like Jackie Chan, he's using his environment as his weapon, you know? Oh, there's a boat there, let me slam that on his head. There's a chair, let me use that. It's some WWE shit. Whatever they can get their hands on is free game for them. So Jin realizes this can't go on. You know, they're never gonna beat them like this. The only way he can beat the assholes on the shore is by finding the asshole within and letting go of his samurai code. Because they rely on underhanded tactics, he has to as well. So he learns how to stealth kill, craft poisons, throw smoke bombs, just about everything that is unbecoming of a samurai. And since the methods he uses to fight off the enemies are dishonorable, he is deemed a traitor to the samurai code. Which is why after he takes down the Mongols and Khotun Khan, he still finds himself at odds with the shogun. And you know, the shogun orders Jin to be handled. You know what I'm saying? Like, kind of deal. Let's play soccer with that shit. But the worst part about this is that the person sent to handle Jin is the person who raised Jin. Jin's uncle, Lord Shimura. I'm sure we can all agree that this is probably the ending they wanted to be the main canon ending, right? It seems like it all adds up to this point of the story. Because if it's an honor for a samurai to die in battle, Jin wouldn't have to do that because he let go of his honor. So why would he kill his family because of something he let go of? He doesn't have to follow their rules. He is someone who cares about the survival of his people more than the samurai code. That's why in this ending, he chooses to not honor the request of his uncle. And when he refuses his uncle, in that moment, his transformation into the ghost is complete. He knows it, and so does Uncle. Which is why right after he lets Uncle live, he dons the mask of the ghost as he painfully lets go of his old way of life, the Bushido. I butchered that, didn't I? It just sounded cooler to say Bushido than the samurai code. This moment is weirdly so devastating to watch because in this moment you can clearly see the pain and awe in Uncle's eyes as he sees his son go off on a different path from the one that Uncle thought was the right way to live. So it's like he's just deserting the right way to live and he has to witness that. It's kind of sad. But this ending clearly tells us in a very tangible way that the ghost is here and the samurai no longer exists. Jin says, I have no honor, lets his uncle live, and wears the mask. It's pretty clear what's happening here. But you remember earlier when I said there are two separate endings, but both of them end the same way but have different emotional journeys? So what is the other ending? How is it a different emotional journey? What happens? What message does the game leave us with then? This to me is the more interesting ending of the two because of how much respect I have for Shimura and his dedication to the samurai code. But to fully understand how this ending unfolds and what's at stake here, I gotta dissect the conversation they have right before the duel. Specifically this part.
We taught our people to defy their leaders,
to defend themselves.
With poison, a gift you gave to our enemy.
I had to stop you from throwing away our people's lives.
You have no honor.
And you are a slave to it.
See, now while that comeback is very sharp and quick-witted, it always kind of rubbed me the wrong way for some reason, and I never really knew why. But then one day I was out of video ideas and I thought, you know what, let me just sit down, hunker down, figure out what the rub is on my mind. I realized that this answer Jin gives just sounds like those ignorant Reddit atheists. It just sounds like Jin is getting Uncle in a gotcha. Like the way he says the line is like he's opposed to the idea of letting yourself become a slave to something. As if Uncle fell for the sham of having a moral code. He let his codes rule him. But I gotta be honest, in all my time alive as a human being, I have found one rule to be true. You know, it's not some crazy revelation or anything here, okay? I'm not Einstein or fucking Carl Jung here or something. I'm just saying, I believe everyone is a slave to something. Whether it be politics, team sports, desires, religion, morals, whatever it is, everyone is a slave to something. And that includes Jin. You know, maybe he's not a slave to the samurai code the same way his uncle is, but he still is a slave to something. And that something is the people of Tsushima. If he wasn't a slave to the people of his island, he wouldn't let go of his samurai code of honor. He wouldn't craft poison. He wouldn't use smoke bombs. He wouldn't stealth kill. But he was willing to do that because he's a slave to his people. He took these extreme measures because that was what was required for his people to survive at that time. Jin, just like Shimura, is a slave to something. It's just not the samurai code of honor. Now, I want to make it clear. I don't think Jin is lame or bad to be a slave to his people. I actually think that's a pretty noble thing to be a slave to. I'm just trying to show that being a slave to something is not inherently bad. It just matters on what it is you are a slave to. Like if it's massa, then that's a problem. I just don't like the way it's said because it makes it seem like Uncle being a slave to his morals is inherently a bad thing. Like, ha, I got you. You're a slave to it. I got you, loser. That's what it sounds like. Am I just crazy? Am I just reading too much into this? I could be doing that, but we're here now, right? Don't click off, please. I think the two sides of the argument could be boiled down to this. Shimura and the samurai believing in a life that is honorable and honorably lived. Honorably lived. Whereas Jin's side believes that, you know what? Honor doesn't mean shit. Survival is all that matters, okay? As long as I'm alive, that's all that counts. These are the two different sides. I personally don't really like that side that much. Now, I'm not saying Jin is wrong for what he did. I would probably do the same thing as well, but I would do it with a grimace. You know, like I'll be like, man, I don't really like what I'm doing. I hate this. I don't think it's fair to end the conversation at, you know what, he did what he had to do, and that's that. It seems short-sighted to me to be willing to do whatever it takes, even at the cost of developing new weapons. An obvious parallel to this is the story of Oppenheimer, right? At the time, they had to create the atomic bomb, and that was what they had to do. I can't judge them for that. That was a different world. But we do now live in a world where 9 countries have atomic weapons. Look, I'm not going to pretend like I have the solution to this age-old dilemma here, okay? This is obviously a very hard question to solve. I'm just saying I don't like the idea that Jin is entirely in the right, especially considering the fact that the people he was trying to save, the inhabitants of the island of Tsushima, felt the effects of the poison that he created because he was fighting against an enemy who did not give a shit. He was just like, how do I kill my opponents? That's it. And he used Jin's weapons against him, against his people. And that's also why I respect Shimura, because he's willing to fight for what's right, but not at the cost of a more dangerous and uglier future. And I'm not saying Uncle is all in the right here either, okay? That's not what I'm saying. He's doing some things that I don't really like as well. He's chosen to slave himself to a samurai code, but he's also the leader of the people of Tsushima. He has another responsibility to make sure everyone in that island is taken care of. That responsibility probably should be priority number 1. So I don't fully agree with Uncle, but I do respect the dedication he has to the thing he's chosen to slave himself to. Not even family, not even his own son gets in the way of the samurai code for him. That is goddamn dedication. And that's the reason I like this ending more. Jin doesn't entirely dislike the honor of the samurai code. It's more that he's chosen to slave himself to his people. That comes first. If at any point honor means more than his people's survival, he's not agreeing with that. Uncle is saying, I don't have anything to live for anyways, so just kill me. I'd rather die in your hands. And I really like in this ending that Jin takes care of Uncle. The reason I say that is because even though by this point he's full ghost mode, he's Ghost of Tsushima, I never got the impression that Jin disliked or actively hated the honor virtue of the samurai code. It's more that he cared more about the survival of his people. And at the end, him choosing to kill his uncle is still pretty in line with his character. I think this works just as much as that ending. But yeah, that's about all I had to say in this video. What do you guys think? You guys got anything? I never know how to end these things. You know what? Since we are talking about samurais in Japan, I'll end it off with one word. But before that word, let me say this. Tell me which ending you guys liked. All right? And why? Why is that ending better than this? Why is the other one better than this? Okay? I don't think it's better, but why? And the word I'm going to say to end it off, sayonara.